Bubble Guppies is a show about merpeople underwater in a school, learning lessons and going on field trips. Basically, SpongeBob meets Magic School Bus, except removing 99% of the comedy and replacing it with some actual banger songs. The show is also about government experiments with half-human fish in the staged Truman Show world where they're always being watched, with secret puppet masters manipulating their every step. I have discovered a hidden theory that solves every inconsistency, with secret spies, a built-in system of classism and segregation, and a government plot that spans not just one, but two shows. This is the Bubble Guppies Truman Show theory. Bubble Guppies is one of those shows that is kinda educational, but not always, and of course there's a deep, dark secret underlining all of it. Now this may seem like a stretch, probably being my weirdest theory yet, but I promise you, this may be one of my strongest ones yet. Let's go over the weird inconsistencies and problems that the show just casually raises. Bubble Guppies is set underwater. This should be pretty apparent, with our main cast being merpeople and a fish. But after watching more and more episodes, I came to the realization that this show physically cannot be underwater. Let me explain. This entire world just seems fake. The backgrounds look painted on. The plants just straight up look like plastic. There are sometimes trees and clouds underwater. Nothing makes sense. This cannot be the ocean. But then, that begs the question. Where are we? Well, I have an idea. What if the reason their entire world doesn't look like a world is because it isn't? What if the walls look painted and flat because they are? What if their entire world is a Truman Show style experiment, a film set where they're constantly being watched, with everything around them being fake? Let me explain. This is a very common theory, and one I have even slightly done in the past. Just explaining anything weird with, well, it's all a simulation, or everything is a TV show and a TV show, and boom, you solved every problem. But that's not what I'm doing here, because there is actually evidence they are in a secret film TV show physically in the show, and there's a lot of it. I mentioned it before, but if you look at the backgrounds, while not always, a lot of times they look weirdly flat, even painted on. A lot of times these backgrounds are reused, just being the color blue with waves in between them. They simply don't look right, especially when having scenes with normal backgrounds being that 3D animation, they don't look real in comparison. But you know, that's one thing, but it's also not. Another issue that I think actually makes a lot of parents, from what I've read, not let their kid watch the show is how badly it portrays being underwater. Let me play you a clip.
Oh, I love rain.
How the hell does it rain underwater? And why don't they want to get wet? This physically just doesn't make sense. I did the research. I read the articles. It doesn't rain underwater. Even in this magic world where it can and there is weather and clouds, why wouldn't they want to get wet? This is the kind of show whose entire goal is to teach kids about the world, but literally right in front of us is showing us the opposite of the world underwater. Unless they're not underwater. Technically, the only thing that directly ties this show to being underwater is that there's fish in it, the character sometimes swimming through the air, and occasionally bubbles on screen. Now sure, if you give me a better reason for why any of this stuff can happen underwater, then I'll believe you. But until then, I can't justify this being in the ocean. But hey, let's put a little pin in that aspect, because whether the characters are in water or not, this is not a normal ocean. They have entire cultures that are a one-to-one match of our own. There's a time where they literally just travel to Japan, but not in the way they go to an ocean near Japan and their fish are local there, but that they travel to a very close town that is Tokyo, really built underwater. A little smaller, sure, and fish themed, but very strange. They also have phones and cars and TV, all things physically impossible underwater. Don't get me started on the camping episode. There's a camping episode. This still isn't the weirdest part. The thing that sold me on this theory. The theory being that A, their world they live in is being filmed, and B, isn't fully real. They literally talk to the camera. I'm not joking, the Bubble Guppies physically interact with the viewer. Let me Explain. Now, at first this may seem like me exaggerating. Oh no, it's a kid's show like Dora or Blue's Clues. They talk to the audience all the time because the audience is small children. And usually I would say, yeah, you're right. But then there are situations where I don't let that apply. Usually I like to look for the in-world explanation before just chalking it all up to being a kid's show. And this is one of those times. Mainly because how they talk to the audience. They'll be talking and suddenly they'll just look at the camera after they say a keyword and define the word, teaching the small children at home what it means.
A substitute is a teacher who takes care of you when your regular teacher is away.
Like, come on, it looks very much like the characters are reading a script, or else why would they not be looking at each other? Plus, the creepy, scared stare doesn't exactly help. But you know, that's just one thing, and it's not enough for a theory. And you know, I would agree. But then, I found something else. Something that would change everything. I found the Bubble Guppies Pitch Bible. Let me explain. A pitch Bible is basically a big book pitching the idea of a show to a studio with characters and episode format and sometimes lore. A good example is the SpongeBob Pitch Bible, which is packed with lore, mainly feeding into the famous television theory. The Pitch Bible for Bubble Guppies is very similar but a little different. It's not written like some sea documentary, anything like that, but simply describes the show in a way we would never have known. The first interesting note is simply how much it mentions the camera, talking about how the characters will talk to a camera, they'll follow them around, that it will float upwards, that the Guppies will stare into it like they are reading when giving a definition. It treats the camera like an actual thing. This is an animated show, so there isn't a camera. So to say the camera is following them around is weird because that's how a show works. Unless there is a specific camera following them around. Okay, but I get it. You want more. That's not enough. How about when they specifically say in the Pitch Bible, there will always be a school of fish that follow not only the Guppies, but the camera, making little jokes and talking behind it. These are actual characters who actually interact with us, with the Guppies, and the physical camera. Sometimes they can be a voice in the background, sometimes it can be a thing in front, giving almost an office-style cutaway, and sometimes they won't be there at all. They are literally in the title card. This has to be official confirmation of a physical camera that follows our characters, one for these fish to interact with, and more importantly, for a real in-world audience to watch through. The Pitch Bible also mentions that Mr. Grouper, the teacher, will directly talk to the audience, guiding them through the show, and instead of having sudden cuts, they will have segments where Mr. Grouper guides them from one to another. This Pitch Bible uses words like segments or skits or educational variety show throughout the book, saying it's one of a kind and first on television. All of this is confirmation this has to be some kind of educational variety show for the kids of the real Bubble Guppy world, and everyone is in on it. But you know, if you think about it, this isn't that bad. Sure, maybe the show is teaching some bad physics, something even if it's all fake, we still need to explain, but in terms of a dark, evil theory, this isn't that bad. Oh no. Okay, fine. Never mind, it's bad. If you think about this further, you start to ask questions, like why are there only a few Bubble Guppies in the show? Why don't we see their parents? Or why is there a specific weird classism theme and almost segregation with the Guppies, whether real or not, going to a school only for Guppies without any other students than them? These questions led me to a single new discovery, something that would warp and change this entire theory. It's just a random line from the Pitch Bible. The line being, the Bubble Guppies are not mermaids, and they live in a world not yet seen on television. Oh my god. They're not fish, or mermaids at least. What are they? They certainly aren't a guppy, because those look like this, and they look like that. What is going on? Okay, so this changes a lot. Now we have to look at the characters a little differently, as originally I used mermaid and merpeople and bubble guppy interchangeably because I thought they were the same thing. And I think they're more similar than not, but there's a single difference on why they aren't just a mermaid. But before that, I need to talk about today's sponsor, me. Please watch. Are you tired of waiting weeks for Noah's videos? Do you find yourself yearning for more content, early access, and more unnecessary features that make you feel superior to the average viewer? Well, do I have the deal for you. Introducing Noah Bolter's Patreon! For the low price of $5, less than the cost of McDonald's burger on the dollar menu, you can unlock all of that and more. Like early access to Noah's amazing, thought-provoking videos. But wait, there's more. Not only do you get to see the the videos before the filthy peasants, you also gain exclusive bonus content. That's right, bonus content, deleted footage, weird tangents. These bonus videos aren't just silly bloopers though, they're full extra content. But wait, there's more. I'll throw something to sweeten the deal, your name in the credits. That's right, immortality just for $5. This guy bought a $5 membership and he just can't stop dancing. And this guy also bought a $5 membership and well, he has a lot to say. Take it away, Daniel.
So, my name's actually Chris, and well, I bought the $5 membership, and let me tell you, it was horrible. Hated it, couldn't find any benefit, it just really wasn't worth the hype, really. All it gave me was exclusive bonus videos, and like, something called like early access. You know, complete rubbish, and on top of that, it put my name in the credits. Like, complete garbage if you ask.
And that's enough of that. That was horrible. Speaking of horrible, it would be horrible if you didn't become a member to Noah Bolter's Patreon. So go do yourself a favor. One thing I have not yet mentioned, but I noticed throughout researching for this video, is the weird classism society that whether fake or real is being portrayed. Let me explain. This can be seen when you exactly think about the logic of the world. Like, why aren't there any other students? The class is just 5-ish bubble guppies, which are not mermaids, not real fish, or at least half fish, and one fish teacher. There are also never references to any other classes, teachers, etc., to the point the class doesn't know what a substitute is. Now, of course, it can be explained away with, oh, it's a TV show, remember? So whatever the bubble guppies are, they didn't get background actors. But the weird thing is, it goes further than just there aren't any other students. There literally aren't any other bubble guppies in the entire show. We travel throughout the entire town, different cities, literal Japan, but not once do we meet another bubble guppy. They're a fish, and they have plenty of fish friends and fish workers, and a fish teacher, but no other bubble guppies. Well, actually, there is one being in a weird episode where they meet a princess bubble guppy, confirming that either the bubble guppies are the royalty in this world, or they want our main cast to think so. Pretty interesting. I think it really depends on who is putting on this show, how much it is fake, and why, but I'll save that for later. There also is never a mention or any appearance of the guppy's parents. We never see an adult bubble guppy inside this entire show, and there's like 6 seasons, so you would think eventually they would, and that's the extreme obsession with not would have to be intentional. Every other sitcom or just children's show has parents. Maybe they're not important, but we know they exist at least, but in this show, we never hear about them at all. To be honest, Mr. Grouper seems to be the only and biggest parental force in their life, literally giving Gil a puppy without asking his parents. Well, a puppy with a tail. He also will just casually take them sometimes in his car to different countries. I imagine while this is a film show, it's more documentary style than not, so the idea of this just seems bizarre. Again, none of this explains what the bubble guppies are. To further the confusion, there are multiple episodes where they have some form of x-ray, and well, they have lungs and a human bonal structure. The only difference is they do in fact have a tail, so they aren't just a human in a costume, but without gills. This doesn't make a lot of sense. The cartoon logic is beginning to confuse even me. The show also acknowledges humans existing, which we know is the extensive knowledge of human culture, mass system, the planet, and the poor physics, but more interesting is when they suddenly are flying through the air, interacting with people, except these adventures aren't even real? Yeah, it's confusing. Basically, a major of the later seasons are these storybook episodes with lower quality, but more importantly, just having the plot of the characters telling stories and going into them. Whether it's just cartoon logic or because they are obviously of a lower quality, staged by the in-world filmmakers, it's very weird. So I'll try to come back to it. Now, I think it's time we bring a new element to all of this. Something I have not yet mentioned, except it's not a something, it's a someone. Zuli. Zuli is a new guppy introduced in the class in season 5 in an episode called The New Guppy. The episode not only starts with Mr. Grouper explaining a new student, but showing the class a video that looks to be an audition for the class, but also the entire show. She mentions her favorite things, which just happen to be the ocean, sea animals, and water. That seems very generic for a literal fish. That's like if someone asked you or me what your favorite thing was, and your answer was, I really like the earth, I'm a big fan of humans, and I'm also really into that air thing. And yeah, that's my entire personality. Just kind of wanted to hark on it. I ended up watching this entire episode, and not once is it mentioned who Zuli actually is. Like, where did she go to school before. This is also never mentioned later. She also never brings up her childhood or her parents, which to be fair makes her just like the other Guppies. This is also weird because to our knowledge, there is no other schools or any other classes for her to go to. This entire school is really just one classroom for less than 5 students who don't even learn and seem to never leave due to how long the show lasts. At this point, Zooey feels like an intentional way for the show to hurt and confuse me. Another weird addition to the earlier classism themes is how the Guppies behave. They're pretty good kids to be honest, but they're also kind of mean to each other, interrupting conversation, making fun of each other, etc. But you know, you expect that in children. The weird part is how the teachers and well anyone react. How do they react? They don't. Not once are any of these damn Guppies told no, or don't do that, or anything. They can rope random people into their random musical segments, can go into places they shouldn't have access to, or just be excessively rude, and nothing happens. After doing all this research, I'll be honest, I've only found more questions. My best guess is there's a weird classism theme, because these guys are sort of celebrities, maybe even being given special treatment and raised in a stage environment mainly by Mr. Grouper. I still have no idea what they are though, besting guess that they just are bubble guppies, because we do know mermaids exist in their world, but they reference them as separate beings, so I have no idea what they could be except being bubble guppies. It's very weird, but at least there isn't anything else weird, nothing crazy or dark or mind-blowing. Oh no, there is, isn't there? Okay, just roll the clip.
I got a tuna fish sandwich.
They had tuna for lunch. They eat fish. Oh my god. What is going on? Okay, maybe the Pitch Bible will explain this. Maybe tuna aren't tuna in their world or something to explain it. Oh my god. See, the Pitch Bible has another little secret. One I somehow missed. It's a simple line like them all, being their world is an ocean-sized aquarium-like landscape with aquarium gravel and plastic plants. So, are they not in the ocean? Are they in an aquarium or a weird huge film set? How big is it? Is it actually ocean size? What is going on? This entire show is confusion and pain over and over again. The simple idea of trying to tie everything together seems impossible. With so many plot holes, weird moments, contradicting lore, I have no idea what is going on. And you know, at first, this was gonna be the death of this video. I was gonna scrap it, say, well, I can't do an ending if the theory doesn't have one. But then I discovered something that changed everything. This will seem like a stretch, like a jump in well everything. Remember how I said this theory isn't just applied to one, but 2 shows? Well, it's time for me to explain. I'm gonna show you just a literal frame, not a clip or a scene, but a frame that will change everything. This is from an official episode and exists in canon. Oh my god. Okay, so this is my breaking point. Stay with me. There is a technical crossover between Bubble Guppies and SpongeBob. It's the most brief thing ever, simply showing him on screen, referencing his name, and then going by. This isn't in a song, and it isn't exactly important, but it is canon. It is confirmation they exist simultaneously in the same world. And oh boy, does that explain so much. For this theory, I'm going to start piggybacking off a very famous SpongeBob theory by Alex Bale, being the television theory. It's very similar to this one, with humans and spies and cameras watching the people Bikini Bottom and using the footage to create a show for humans to show them how to be better and bridge the gap between man and fish. Well, that seems very similar to exactly what is going on in Bubble Guppies. What if this isn't a coincidence? What if Bubble Guppies and SpongeBob are both working in the same television theory? Let me explain. See, now that I can place the world of Bubble Guppies in the world of SpongeBob, things start to make sense. For example, the cartoon logic of SpongeBob can just transfer over the Bubble Guppies. I actually think Bubble Guppies could easily say the same theory with Alex Bale's imagination theory. To basically sum it up, the imagination of the characters, because this cartoon, affect their actual world. They believe there is fire underwater, so there is. I think this can explain away some little issues. But that's not all, because connecting this to SpongeBob SpongeBob and theories and lore isn't just to solve the small little inconsistencies or issues. No, it's a simple connection of Bubble Guppies and SpongeBob both being created by the same government or film studio brings us to the biggest discovery of this entire video. See, there is a crucial character to the SpongeBob television theory, and that character may actually be behind all of this. The reason this show and everything we see in it is so fake is not just in the ocean and why any of it is being filmed. Who's behind it all? Her name is Sandy Cheeks. See, in the SpongeBob television theory, Sandy is a crucial part of the entire secret film project, being a spy for the filmmakers. Not only is this basically confirmed with it indirectly being the plot of the entire Sandy Cheeks movie, but it's also not crazy to say she doesn't have similar experiments, this one just being a little more controlled. Now, at first this still may seem like a jump, but there's actually a little evidence for it. First, Sandy has done little experiments like this before. Whether it's building a staged version of her friends' homes or setting up cameras in her own house, she does this all the time. She also lives in a fake world underwater surrounded by glass. So not only does she literally have experience with doing the same thing, but she's done it to others before. But you know, that's okay evidence, but not the strongest. No, I want something deeper to convince me that she is the one in control. And at first, I thought there wasn't anything to do so, until I finally discovered this. See, there's an episode in Bubble Guppies where they learn what squirrels are, and Mr. Grouper mentions a random little line. I was friends with a squirrel once. Oh my god. Why would Mr. Grouper, a fish, have any connections to any squirrels? Unless he knows a certain squirrel who lives under the sea and is behind all of this. Well, you know, at least this theory isn't super dark or crazy. You know, it's just Sandy and the filmmakers running some kind of staged limited experiment with these half-fish people. Still don't know what they are, but they're teaching the world how to be better and educating the children. Plus, I'm pretty sure these definitely are bridging the gap between man and fish with literally being both. Well, I guess that's all. Oh no. There's more, isn't there? See, the one thing I noticed is another connection between Bubble Guppies and SpongeBob being their equal progression into tragedy. Let me explain. See, both shows start out pretty good, with SpongeBob being funny and for all sake not being that crazy, and doesn't seem to have much interference from the filmmakers. Bubble Guppies, while definitely more controlled and staged, still educates kids, and besides the bad representation of the ocean, they're pretty good at it, and those songs are honest bangers. But that's just how these shows start, and as sad as it is, the more we go, the more greed the filmmakers get. They start inserting problems and crazy stakes into SpongeBob. Sandy starts actually causing problems with her little inventions. In the case of Bubble Guppies, it's so much worse. See, the show was canceled but then brought back from the dead, getting 2 more seasons, but they weren't exactly what people remembered. The show quality had taken a toll, with the backgrounds being even more fake, but more importantly, the show introduced an entirely new concept: story time. Now, the characters were going on these fake stories and going on even crazier adventures. This is something they did before during story time, but now it was the entire show, and the actual educational aspect had entirely died with it. Bubble Guppies was a husk of what it once was, and as the greed of our filmmakers and sadly Sandy, the show slowly grew into something it never thought it would become.